Hey guys, it's Rachel from the Little Ring Lamb. Today I have a book review on The Andromeda Strain by Michael Crichton. And this book I read, by the time you see this, it's going to be a little bit a while ago, but I'm going to get into it. So basically this will be a no spoilers review, and if you're new to my videos or just a refresher, I write books in 5 different categories: plot, characters, cover, suspense, and overall in terms of reading in very soon, 5 out of 5, not so soon, 1 out of 5. So The Andromeda Strain actually came out, I believe, in 1969. It was one of Michael Crichton's. I don't think it was one of his first novels, but it's one of his earlier novels. I'm just going to look in the inside. I probably should have done some more research about this at the beginning. No, it doesn't say any of his books on the inside, does it? No, it's just a lot of praise. Oh, here it is. The Andromeda Strain, it says the first in the fiction section. I'm not sure if it is because he did publish under a second name, Mystery Novels. So it's definitely not his first novel published, but it's one of his earlier ones. And this one is basically, I'm going to be looking at the back and kind of summarizing that way so I don't spoil anything. But it's about a military space probe sent to collect extraterrestrial organisms knocked out of orbit and falls to Earth. 12 miles from the crash site, an inexplicable phenomenon terrorizes the residents of a sleepy desert town in Arizona, leaving only 2 survivors, an elderly addict and a newborn infant. And basically it's the U.S. government trying to deal with what has happened and what has kind of knocked out this town, and figuring out the cause and effect, and is it going to hurt other people. So it's a very science-dense novel for Michael Crichton, but I was very interested in this because I probably wouldn't have got to this as soon, but there is a movie, which I do want to see, which I don't own, but I want to eventually see. And I do own the A&E miniseries that came out, I believe, in 2008 or 9. I think it was that, or maybe it was earlier than that, but I really want to see that, and I'm going to be actually doing a movie or a TV miniseries review on that. And by the time you see this, I might schedule it so the miniseries review comes out. Actually, it might be out a few days before the week after this, so it's going to be sometime around the same time in case you're just interested in watching the show or reading the book. So the plot gave a 3 out of 5. Now, I found the ending was very anticlimactic. It was just I don't want to say anything. I'm not going to say anything more, but I just didn't find it the best ending. This is a shorter book for Michael Crichton. This is also not the mass market paperback. The mass market paperback might have been a little bit longer, but it was a little less than 300 pages in this edition, which is very short for a Michael Crichton novel, because I've read a lot of his bigger ones like Jurassic Park and The Lost World, and I own the timeline by him, which is a lot bigger. And I just found I know it's very science based, so I can't really mark it off for science because I knew that walking into the book, so that'd be my own fault. But sometimes I felt like he even says in the beginning, I'm not going to explain this, it's in scientific detail, if you don't know it, kind of you need to figure it out yourself. He says that distinctly from the beginning, which I do appreciate because sometimes it is confusing. And I really liked how it's kind of set up this is a biographer, and he said he has 20 more books of this that he could put in as the biographer, and acting this is a real phenomenon. Because I was gonna say, because I don't think this is actually a real phenomenon, because you would have heard about it, but it was making it seem like it was. I know it's fiction, so I wasn't worried that was a real phenomenon, but in the book it really set up you could be oh, this is real because we didn't hear about this. So I wasn't fooled by that, people, but I could see how it was set up so real that I could see how I could believe it, it was very believable that this actually happened. And I felt sometimes it was a little bit slow, it really sucked me in at certain parts, and then I drew back from it, and then it got me in it again. But I say after page 200 it just kind of sloped for me. Characters I give 3 out of 5. Same kind of thing, we couldn't really connect too much with the characters because they weren't in their normal settings as much. Before, they were kind of ripped out of their normal settings to go kind of solve this mystery of this Andromeda strain. You didn't hear too much about them, and they were doing scientific discovery. You heard a bit about their past and how that affected them being doctors and doing all this, but you didn't hear too much about their past and seeing them communicate with really their normal everyday people and surroundings. So it was harder to connect the characters because they were there for a mission. They were a tool meant to just figure this out. They weren't supposed to be people that you connected necessarily with, I feel like. So that also made it harder. Which is very interesting. I still enjoyed this book, just it wasn't my favorite. I've liked a lot more Michael Crichton. Well, I haven't read that many, but I've liked the other Michael Crichton books I've read better, but I don't regret the time I spent reading this book because I do want to see the mini-series, and I think that might be a little bit, I love the book, but I feel the adaptation I might like a little bit better because I'm not a science person, and if you are a science person, I definitely see the draw, but I'm not, and I do understand some of the words he's using from science classes, but do I know what they mean necessarily? Not until I explain them. Cover, 3.5 to 5. I like this cover. It's not my favorite. I think it's supposed to be like, to me it reminds me of blood under a microscope, I feel like, but it's probably not it. It's probably or it's like a cell. I feel like it's a cell, like, under a microscope. Something under a microscope. Sorry if I'm wrong with that. I'm not a science person, as I said before. And I really like how the cover's like white with the red. It's like a pretty good cover. Like, it's not my favorite, but it's not bad. Suspense, I give a 3.5 to 5 just because the first 150 pages, at least, it really drew me in more. So that definitely pushed over the end. And yeah, there were some good parts at the end in like the last half of the book, but I felt it dragged a little bit, but not enough to give it just a 3. I thought it got the 0.5 because it did keep me drawing in and out, but most of the time it did keep me drawing in. So I decided to bump it up to 3.5 because it definitely drew me in more than I was like out of it. And overall, I give the book a 3.5 to 5 for rereadability. It is a short Michael Crichton book. Even though it wasn't my favorite, it's not a big time commitment. So if I was going to go reread this, it wouldn't take that long. And I really like Michael Crichton books for the most part. I'm trying to get into them more. I'm actually currently reading Disclosure, which is not really a scientific one, which I'm really interested in seeing how it kind of differs. I don't know if it's too scientific, but I don't think so in comparison to like Jurassic Park, The Lost World, and the Andromeda Strain. And yes, that's basically my book review on the Andromeda Strain by Michael Crichton. Let's discuss in the comments. Remember, if you are posting a comment with a spoiler, put the spoiler space down a few things so the people that have not read the book do not get spoiled. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.